are listening to Fast Track Podcast, the place to be to fast track your personal finance or fast track your business, or both, through a series of conversations with those who have learned it, done it, and made it. Julian Maier is the person behind the online presence called the Julian Mental Sixpack. His personal mission is to empower people on 3 levels: mentally, physically, and emotionally. He quit his full-time job in 2015 and followed his passion for martial arts and mental fitness. In 2017, his mother passed away due to heavy depression, so he dedicated his life to help people with mental, emotional, and physical health problems. With this intention, he started URBNTIGER, a startup and club with a mission to empower people with 3 elements training for mind, body, and spirit. Let's hear about his story. Welcome to Fast Track Podcast, Julian.
Thank you very much, Yazi. Thank you for having me.
I'm also very interested hearing your story once again, since our audience have not get a chance to hear it. You call yourself Julian Mental Sixpack on the internet. So what is the meaning behind the name?
So actually, the meaning behind the name is my mission, because I want people to have a mental six-pack. In terms of, everybody knows what a body six-pack is, right? You are basically fit. But I think my personal experience is, if you have control over yourself mentally, then you will be happy. Or as my flatmate said, if you have control over your life, you will find your way to happiness. And in my experience, there's a connection. It's a psychological fact between thoughts, emotions, and actions. So the body six-pack, if we term it, if we say like that, is only the output, right? It's only the superficial manifestation of how your mindset is and how you are emotionally set up. So for me, it starts with the mind. I want people to have a mental six-pack, and that's why I call myself a mental six-pack, Julian Mental Sixpack, because obviously I was the first one that I trained to have one.
I love the last sentence. You are the first one that you trained to have one. I hope I will get mental six-packs sooner or later under your influence.
I hope so as well. You know, my goal is that when people spend time with me, they should feel empowered. So my mission is to empower people, and I'd love to, let's say, influence, of course, a lot of people, but especially the people close to me and around me. So yeah, let's spend more time together, I would say.
Yeah, since last time we talked, so for the audience, if you have not known that Julian actually lives in Germany, so we met up in Switzerland. And just now before we started recording, I told him, oh, now I see you, I'm going to go for a run after the recording because I wanted to go for a walk, and now I don't want to be lazy.
Perfect.
And then before, you also worked in digital marketing space for German car makers. And now you are in this fitness space. How did you change from, something completely different to the fitness world?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a background history here. So after finishing my school here in Munich, I actually studied business administration, which was kind of a safety decision. I was always more into, let's say, creative jobs or creative hobbies or stuff like graphic design, web design, But kind of during that time, I decided to go for business administration because it kind of felt more safe. So, and then actually I was always oriented towards marketing, because marketing was more or less the only thing out of this whole business administration study that kind of had some creative aspect. So I chose to go that way. And at the time, or let's say by the end of my studies, I was drawn to car manufacturers because, like, from a marketing perspective, they seemed very interesting to me. Even though I was never so much into cars, it seemed like, okay, they are very marketing-driven companies. So that's what basically got me into the car business or car manufacturing business, which actually, it was a valuable experience. So I spent a couple of years working for Audi and then left Audi and went for a freelance job at Mercedes-Benz, both in the digital marketing and mobile marketing. But like I found out that actually this whole world, like especially around cars, is not my thing. I found my passion in movement, especially fitness and martial arts. And the philosophy behind martial arts was what actually led to the decision to quit my job and to pursue that as my dream. And of course, a personal private stroke of fate, or let's say my personal fate in terms of my personal experiences with my family, with my mother, that was also a big influence, a huge influence to follow my track now.
And would you mind sharing your personal experience with your mother and how it drove you towards your vision to help other people?
Of course. So my mother, she was like maybe the most important person in my life, because she was always very loving and giving, and she was a badass businesswoman. So actually, she was all her life, most of her life, she was self-employed. She had two running shoe stores here in the center of Munich, so really prime league, let's say so. And she was really successful in that. But with the change of the market, also with online markets evolving like Zalando and eBay and Amazon, and a lot of, let's say, shoes coming from, or like more economical or cheap shoes coming from China and the other parts of the world, the business was changing, and being a, let's say, local shop owner in that area was totally not economical lucrative like anymore. So in the end, basically she was working her butt off, she was working her ass off, but was not successful economically anymore. And unfortunately, her self-worth was directly connected to her being economically successful. And in the end, that led to a serious depression that actually evolved over a decade, with me watching it. Like in the first years, I didn't really notice it, or I didn't really realize that this was a depression. It took more and more serious forms. Like maybe in the beginning, she, instead of like having one beer an evening to just cool down, became two, and eventually, like it turned out, she was drinking, or I don't know, caught her drunk in the afternoon. But the first experience I had, I was like an 18-year-old guy who, had a mother, and she argued with me, and she was drunk. And it was also about my father, because they lived in a off and on relationship. But at that time, I didn't really notice that she had a serious problem. But only after the years and years, when it got worse and worse and worse, I realized, okay, she has a problem. And in the beginning, I called that problem her being an alcoholic, which also I found out after years and years was not the problem. Alcohol was only the solution, the false solution to her problem. Her main problem was her self-worth, let's say her how she was programmed by her dad. So that's why I focused more and more and more and more, and learned more and more about mental training and emotional training, because I found out, hey, it's not the alcohol basically what is the source of the problem. The source is her mental, emotional picture of herself only being worthy if she is economically successful. Basically, that is caused by her dad punishing her, like really slapping her, literally, when she was, like, let's say, not working well as he thought it would be well. Like he also had a store, a shoe shop, and she worked with him there. And it was kind of a relationship that she got petted by him as long as she was a good girl, and she got slapped by him when she kind of didn't work well, or was not performing as he'd like to. So, and by this, he programmed her, and he programmed her attitude towards her self-worth. In the end, I totally reflected that it was not her fault how she was thinking or feeling, but it got programmed into her. That I found out, and I said to myself, okay, I cannot be angry, and I cannot make any accusations towards her that she's being like an alcoholic and she doesn't stop drinking, and she tries to drink away her problems. It was only a desperate person that was actually trying to, let's say, sleep better, or to flow the, let's say, to drink the negative emotions and feelings away. And she didn't have a better solution, you know. But in the end, this whole depression also led to her death. So by 2017, I found her actually in the bathtub with, she basically drank herself to death. So in the end, it was suicide then, right? It was not like she slit her throat with a knife, but it was a long, slowly suicide. And with me watching that over the period of over 10 years, I was more and more getting involved in the question, hey, what is life about? What does people make? Where comes happiness from? And that's where I actually got connected to Eastern martial arts and Eastern philosophy. I read a lot about Buddhism and Taoism. And in the end, most of those philosophies point to one truth, namely that you only have the moment, right? And, you know, we are living most of us live in the future or in the past, but both of them are not really, let's say, realistic. They are not existent. It only exists in your head. So the only real time that exists is the moment, and the moment always is a measurement of your life. So if you are in the moment, like feeling miserable, then your life is miserable. So, and then I thought about the question, hey, how can you improve the moment? How can you improve your life? And the key for me is actually working on yourself. So if you have control over yourself, over your thoughts, over your emotions, over your actions, then you also can control, your state, right? You can control where you find happiness. Because I do not say that anybody should be happy all the time. It's a lie. Like I more see it like the philosophy of yin yang, right? There's dark and light. There's feeling bad and feeling great. So it's both equal and it's both valuable. You only have to, let's say, figure out how to deal with negative emotions, how to deal with negative thoughts, because it's not unnatural. But if you are, let's say, having a stroke of fate where, like for example, you're having a really hard time, and all you do is reflecting this hard time on yourself and say, in the end, it's because of you, and you're not worth it. And you know, you end up in this negative emotional mental action cycle that actually drags you down until you stop it. So you actually have the power, but only you. So other people may be of help, but you have to be the first one who actually realizes that you're in a negative down circle, and you have to stop that by willingly saying to yourself, okay, I want to change something, and then you can ask for help. But it has to come from within. So, and I figured out, hey, what people are doing in fitness is they train their bodies, right, to be in shape, to be healthy. Why don't we do that with our mind and our emotions? Because they are equally worth it, and maybe even more valuable than the body. So that's why I basically committed to this 3 elements training of mind, or spirit, mind, and body.
Oh, I really like what you said, that your life is the moment, and how you live your moment actually defines that moment in your life. And also feeling happy, it's also a choice, it's a state of mind. If it's, you know, if it's raining outside, some people can complain, feeling bad, and some people just take it as it is and not having any negative emotions towards it. Yeah, I totally agree with you that people need to learn how to control their emotions and then balance it out, not just physical health, but also mental, emotional health.
Exactly, because it's an emotion that sets you in motion, right? Because you do not do the things you do without any thought or emotion behind it. It's that would be a lie, actually. You know, everybody's driven by anything, but on the surface or on the foundation of this action is always a thought and emotion. So that's where the interesting stuff is hidden.
Yeah. I'm curious about you being in this, let's say, either I can say it's an active or dark or difficult period in your life for so many years. How did you deal with it, since back then you were a teenager and then early 20s?
Exactly. So first of all, there was some kind of denial, I would say, in terms of everything's right. So there are no problems. But that's, I think, maybe mainly because of a lack of reflection or having a lack of comparison. So I didn't see a problem. I started to see a problem when my mother, for example, when she had a car accident where she was drunk, actually, it was not a bad accident. She just there was a parking car and she kind of drove a little bit into this car. Nothing seriously happened, but that was the first time okay, now it has an effect, And me as a teenager, I was definitely not capable to deal with this situation properly. So I was definitely in a state where I couldn't deal with it. I was overloaded, I was overwhelmed. So I was trying to, let's say, focus on my studies because my mother always supported me, right? And the tricky thing is, like somebody who is who's getting depressed and like what you say about drug addicted people or alcoholics, they actually say from themselves they are not having any problems. So I kind of believed that, right, in the first place, because I was also a, let's say, son, who wanted his mother to be strong. So when she said to me, "Hey, Julian, don't mind, I got this, I'm just having a hard time, but I got this," I was, of course, relieved. Yeah, okay, she got. And then that switched. From a certain point, that switched. First of all, I had the need to, let's say, escape. I remember that when in 2009, like she had those phases when she was drinking really hard. And until the point that I actually took the bottle out of her hand, right? So at that point, I said, "Hey, I can't take this anymore. I cannot live here with you anymore. I have to find my own apartment because otherwise I cannot focus on my studies." And so I moved out, which actually improved our relationship. But that was basically like the first step. I had to move out because I was seeing, hey, this is affecting me too much right now. And I was actually also co-addicted. Have you ever heard that term?
Well, I have not heard about it.
Okay, it's pretty simple. So when you have a relative, or let's say a really close person, it could be also your husband, your lover, and he's getting addicted, then you actually want to help him, right? It's your natural response. Hey, I want to help. The main mistake that you are doing with the mindset, I want to help, is taking over responsibility for this other person. Like, for example, it can start easy by, okay, she's lying drunk on the sofa. Obviously, she's not able to buy groceries anymore right now and let's say eat properly. Okay, I'm going to take that. So I'm going to buy the groceries and start preparing something for her. And it goes to, oh, she doesn't open that letter, but that letter is important. So I will take care about that. Or like it even took the shape of, she had a store, right, a running business in Munich. Oh, today she's totally not able to work. Okay, I'm going to take that over today. But that was a point where it got really serious because I realized, hey, okay, she's even like sacrificing her business responsibilities to that. So at that point, it was obvious to me and also my dad, which was not living with her anymore for a long time, that this was a serious problem and she needs some proper help. And, at that point, I was always trying to help her by making her go to a doctor, making her start a therapy. But she was really, how do you say, thick-headed, like she had her own mind, right? She was like this type of character that said, hey, you don't have anything to say to me regarding my life, so mind your own business. So she had that attitude that she cares about everything all the time herself, and that I wouldn't have to tell her what to do. But the truth was, I was already overtaking responsibilities for her. So that already affected my life and already affected my work life. And it went over my studies. It went over like my first work at Audi until I remember when it got really, really, really bad when I worked for Mercedes-Benz. And I actually, at that point, it was like that, for example, she called me, she rang, I took the phone, and I realized, okay, she was drunk. Actually, it was a cry for help, right? She wanted to talk to me to I don't know, to have some voice that she knows. But I saw on myself that, hey, every time she calls me when she's drunk, actually it sucks away my energy, because I get so frustrated, because all I'm trying to do is trying to help her. And when I realized, okay, she's drunk, then it was always a failure also for me personally. So it took away so much energy from me, that I realized, hey, every time she calls me when she's drunk, I cannot work or I cannot do anything anymore, even not sports, for at least one day. It takes my whole energy away for one day. So I said to her, hey, listen, you can call me anytime, but never again if you're drunk, because I won't talk to you anymore when you're drunk, because it takes away my life energy for that day, and I don't want that anymore. So that was my first line that I draw. And even though it was painful, it actually worked out. So our relationship improved in that way, because she realized, hey, okay, he's really not picking up the phone anymore. Or when he realizes that I was drinking, he hangs up the phone. So that improved our relationship in the short run. But you asked me how I handled the situation. Well, the truth is, it was a year-long process on finding out how to deal with that, and it ended actually only close before her death. But the things that actually kept me stable was my training, which meant in that case, martial arts and bodyweight training that I did. It was reading about philosophy, like life philosophy, mostly about, as I said, Buddhism, Taoism. I was very influenced by that. And it was my social network, my friends. So basically, I already, even though I didn't know, I was actually caring about my three levels, right? My emotions in terms of my social network, my friends, then my mental part with the philosophy, and my physical part with the martial arts training. And I found that out over the years, because with this, I could keep myself stable. And I was always saying in the Buddhist kind of philosophy, hey, I'm coming first, because if I'm not stable, I would not be able to help her, because I would break down, right? So I was in that terms egoistic, because I said to myself, no, I'm coming first. I want to help her. I will never let her down. I will always be there for her, but I have to be stable. And what are the tools that can keep me stable? And those were the tools. And then in the end, I was quitting my job at Daimler to pursue my dreams, to only dedicate my life to this kind of training, and also, of course, to help her. My main mission in my life was actually to save her. And that's why I also decided to move back. I was training for 2 years in Berlin, and I moved back to Munich in 2017. And at that point, I was actually feeling it. I was feeling, I couldn't tell exactly how, but I had to be with her, because I was realizing, hey, I'm the only person in her life that actually is able to make her happy again. In terms of all of her friends have gone, she didn't have a relationship anymore. I mean, it's not the fault of everyone else, right? But she was so isolated. She was so like introverted and keeping to herself, that I said to myself, hey, I'm the only one who can actually make a difference in her life. I saw that as a personal responsibility. I couldn't do any other. And I said, okay, everything is priority 2 or 3. Like my first priority now is her life. And so I moved back to Munich and cared about her. I mean, she was able to move, right? But she was already very weak. And I was at that time, I think, the first time I was able to express my feelings honestly to her without being mad at her, because I realized, hey, it's not her fault how she is, right? I had a time where I was really, really angry with her, because I couldn't understand it, why she's throwing her life away, and by this throwing, making my life hard. And then when I finally realized that it was not her fault, I was able to say to her, hey, listen, I know you don't want to do the things you're doing, but just that like everything that you're doing to yourself also is hurting me, because we are connected. And by expressing this to her, she was really, let's say, open. She was realizing that this is the truth, because in the past we had a lot of arguments and she was always blocking. And by that, she was realizing, hey, okay, it's the truth. Like her life and how she treats herself is making my life harder. And I think that also was a main reason for her. Actually, I think it was a decision to end her life, because she had never the intention to make my life bad. Always the opposite. She always was empowering, always. And I think that was the hardest burden for her to take, to realize that actually what she was never wanting in terms of making my life hard became reality. And that's why I think her life has ended. But I was not mad at her. I was not, let's say, of course I was sad, and it struck me. But at the end, I also understood why she had done it. And we had a good conversation, like my last conversation with her, or my last talks with her were very good, like very loving. So I had no regrets, I had no regrets. And I was happy that I could actually, let's say, realize and express my thoughts and emotions and also connect with her again, even though I couldn't save her in that terms.
Yeah, it was built up over the years. And as a teenager yourself, at that moment, you need to discover what's wrong. You need to discover how to handle yourself. I think it's not an easy journey, not for you, not for everyone who are in this situation.
Exactly.
And now you have lived through this and discovered what keeps you together, what keeps you strong and positive through your mental, physical, and emotional training. How would that impacted how you design the trainings program with your company URBNTIGER to help other people?
URBNTIGER, I founded URBNTIGER by the end of 2017. So actually in the same year my mother died, which is kind of, for me, it's really a metaphor. Like the moment she died, there was a fire in me that really burned so strong. It was a negative drive, right? I was not happy. It was a pure negative energy that was inside of me. But I formed that into something positive, because I knew that the way we are working in our performance-driven society can be a cause of death. And it's like basically not only the way that we are working, but the way we are thinking, like the way people think, performance-driven people are thinking. And I was saying to myself, okay, I want to change that. I want society to realize and to change their behavior. And first of all, I wanted myself to change, because I wanted not go the same direction as my mother did. And, with that mindset, I was saying, okay, actually, Bruce Lee was one of my big influencers. And he said, hey, you have to train your mind, your body, and your spirit. And I was really asking my question, okay, what does he mean with that? Like, how do you train your spirit? How do you train your mind? And I was actually reading through the internet, reading about mental exercises coming from psychology, reading about what does spirit mean. And by this, my mission was to design a training program that actually makes you so strong that you can tackle anything that life throws you in its way. Because, as I said, the goal was never for me to give the people the illusion that, there's always happiness and you can live a life only full of happiness, because that's not the truth. But to design a training program where you actually learn how to deal with the negative side, because people tend to focus on, other people or take them as role models that seem to have a perfect life, like we're seeing on social media all the time, right? But the truth is that no one lives a perfect life. Everybody has to deal with negative thoughts, emotions, and especially when it comes down to events that you would never count with. Somebody of your family getting sick, somebody close to you needing help. That's when you need to be strong. And this is what the training of URBNTIGER is designed. So we train martial arts because it gives you the attitude of being empowered. It gives you a mindset of a fighter. The training of a fighter is designed to make him win, to make him win over others. And in that case, you do not have an opponent who's standing in front of you, but you have an opponent that is within you, right? So the negative voice that is speaking to you, that's your real opponent. And you need to face and tackle that opponent. So we designed a training program that is actually training you on 3 different levels. From a body-wise, you learn how to control your body by bodyweight training and martial arts. You train your mind by simple things, practicing thankfulness, practicing, hey, with what kind of attitude do you want to start your next day? With what kind of intention are you going into this business meeting? What do you want to achieve? Like really questioning your thoughts and realizing what your thought patterns are, especially when you are in challenging situations. Hey, how do you talk to yourself when something went sideways? When you have failed, or when you are close to a failure, how do you talk to yourself? And to change that voice into an empowering coach that is always talking good to you, and training emotionally by actually training with others, because martial arts training is designed by default that you always train together. You always train with another person. And as Bruce Lee said, you learn about yourself by training with other people. So it's the other people are like a mirror then for you. So that's what I would say about emotional training, because by the end of each program, you have a, let's say, final challenge. You can compare it with a fight, because when you move into a fight, then everything comes up, because you are being challenged to the extreme in terms of, hey, when I fail, I may be lying on the ground. So as I said, we left the real fight aside, but we said, hey, okay, you have to go through, let's say, 6 to 12 rounds, 3 minutes, like a real boxing fight. And you have to show what you have learned. You have to perform those 6 to 12 rounds like you were in a boxing fight, only with that we are not boxing against each other. We are doing pad work, which is a training form in boxing. And on the other, with the bodyweight training, you have to do this amount of push-ups. You have to, I don't know, this type of exercises that are like physically really challenging, and you have to prepare for that. We give you 9 weeks for that. And by the end, you have to prove what you have learned. And it's really this test situation that brings people to their limits, because you see immediately how somebody is feeling, or how somebody is talking, or how somebody is looking when faced with a serious challenge. And at that moment, you learn a lot about yourself. And from that on, you can work about how you talk to yourself, how you feel about yourself, and how you perform. And what you learn is actually to remain calm. So that's, I think, one of the most important training goals that the Urban Tiger training has, is to remain calm in any kind of circumstances. Like let's say you can also apply this to work. Let's say, for example, something goes sideways. You have a super stressful situation, and maybe you have a deadline that is endangered because you wanted to finish something by the end of this day, but you are not going to make it. And there are a lot of people involved, and you get stressed out. So what happens is there's a stress response in the body that makes your heart rate go boom, 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 and your blood vessels are narrowing. So there is more blood flowing through your body. You get sweaty hands, right? You get, maybe you're fearful, you get cold sweat.
Yeah. Cannot think straight.
And you don't think straight anymore, because it's a natural stress response of the body. Your body thinks actually that you are in real danger, the same danger as, for example, if a tiger would stand in front of you and you would have to face death. So, and by training, for example, martial arts, and by putting yourself into stressful situations beforehand, you train actually how to deal with your stress response, how to deal with hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, which are not bad. The stress response of your body is not bad in general, but you have to be trained how to keep a clear mind under stress. And then, first of all, you control your breathing, to activate your parasympathetic nervous systems that brings you down. Then you have to keep your mind in check in terms of, hey, are the thoughts right now helpful? Oh my God, because like if something goes sideways, you immediately start thinking about, oh my God, if I will not reach that goal, this will happen, and they will be disappointed, and I will not earn any money anymore, and I will end up on the street. It's a little bit exaggerated now, but this is what happens. You are already projecting your failure into the future, which is not even real at the moment. And then you have to catch yourself again and say, hey, okay, stop. This is not really happening right now. So this is where the mental training kicks in. Okay, I'm at the moment. What can I do to make the best out of the situation, even though it's fucked? Okay.
Yeah.
And then you control your emotions, you calm down, and from that on, you can decide and work properly, instead of like being stressed out and being overreactive and doing stuff that is not helping anyone. And
that pretty much applies to any situation that you are uncertain.
Yeah.
Because once it's uncertain means risks. When risks means there will be bad consequences, and then people get nervous about it. It's pretty much every single entrepreneur would experience this. that they have to sacrifice time and resources building up a company without the certainty that will be successful.
Exactly.
Can be very stressful, yeah.
Exactly. And you can train those stress responses, and that's what we do.
Earlier, you mentioned about it's the ability to stay calm in challenging, difficult situations.
Yeah.
I find it's very valid because personally, I have experienced that when I was slightly younger, not slightly, when I was younger, I tend to react much more emotionally when something bad happens. But now, after doing meditation every day and also read a lot of books, whatever happens, just you need to stay calm and to be less emotional. Then I can react to the situation the best way possible. I think that needs training, like you said.
Exactly, and it's interesting that you say it. From my perspective, I wouldn't say be less emotional. I would say you should be able to control that emotion, because like the truth about emotional training is not that you are not having emotions anymore, but you can interpret them way faster, and you can express them way more honestly and better. Like, for example,
You mean the stability to make of your
exactly
emotions?
exactly because like an emotion is your body's reaction to the mind, right? So in the end, it also happens within your body. It's nothing unnatural. You're not bad if you're feeling angry. You're not bad if you're feeling frustrated. It's a natural thing. And if you look at children, they are really being honest about the emotions. You can see from a children's face and from a children's I don't know, crying or screaming or shouting or whatever, you can see the emotion in its true form, so it's natural. But of course, you don't want to shout in every business meeting because you're angry or frustrated. So of course, so that there needs to be some kind of, let's say, controlled naturalness in terms of you feel that emotion coming up. Let's take anger. You feel that anger coming up and you feel it really strong inside. Then there's for example, there's an exercise, a 6-step process to emotional intelligence. The first step would to be, okay, realize that there is an emotion and then to give it a name. There are 5 basic emotions: anger, fear, joy, sexual arousal, and what was the last one? Sadness. So identify what kind of emotion it is. Then secondly, I locate the emotion in your body. A third one would be express how this emotion, let's say, what this emotion does with you in your body. Like, is it a twisting feeling? Is it a feeling that makes you expand or contract? What does it do physically to you? And try to express it. Then next step would be to express it verbally. If this emotion would have a sound, how would it sound like? Like, would it be an ah, or would it be then yes? What would it be? How would it sound like? Imagine it. Then the next step would be, the 5th step, I think, if I was right, was, can I accept that emotion from a level to 0 to 10, if 10 is full acceptance and 0 non-acceptance? And can I appreciate the emotion also from a level from 0 to 10? And the last step would be, what is the emotion telling me? What is the message behind the emotion? Like, for example, in terms of anger, you could ask yourself, okay, what needs to be destroyed or what needs to be changed so something new can take its place? Or in terms of sadness, what or who needs to be let go of? In terms of joy, what needs to be celebrated? In terms of fear, what or who do I need to face? And in terms of sexual arousal, what wants to be created? And by the end, you will have an answer on that question. And the more and more you train this process, the better you will be able to feel that emotion, to let that emotion be, and almost at the same time express that emotion to the one who triggered it. So this is for me emotional control, not having it, but expressing it to the other person honestly. That's emotional control.
Mm-hmm. And would this be part of the training program of Urban Tiger?
Yes.
Okay. And how can people find out more about how this program is designed? And can people from, let's say, not only Germany, but also other countries to join it?
Exactly. As for now, the training and the website was only in German, but right now it's offline because we are relaunching it. So we are relaunching it by the mid of June. So we are working on it right now. So the best way to follow us right now would be through Instagram. You can find us on URBNTIGER_com. The URL, the web address is urbentiger.com, but it's currently offline because we're working on it. You could follow me on Instagram if you want to. It's Julian_Mental_Sixpack. And the website, I think you already mentioned it, is mentalsixpack.com, mental-sixpack.com. So there are a lot of ways to follow me, and that's the best, I think.
Thank you so much for being here today, Julian. And thank you so much for sharing your personal experience with the audience. It is so important that you have physical health, mental health, and emotional health. I think I just really want to encourage everyone that you all sign up for fitness club, but don't ignore your mental health and emotional health. It's equally important, especially in the last year during the COVID. A lot of people has been locked up at home, and it was really depressing. When the situation gets better, I think it's going to be more opened, and everybody can start to connect with families and friends and join trainings like yours and join conversations online, offline. I hope this episode is inspiring for you guys. If you would like to learn more about Urban Tiger, please visit their Instagram page and website, or follow Julian, his own personal Instagram page, and you can find the links in this episode show notes. Thank you so much, Julian.
Thank you very much for having me, Yas.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Fast Track Podcast. Show me your support by liking this episode and sharing it with your friends. Join the Facebook group at Fast Track Podcast 1, or you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and of course the homepage fasttrack.life. See you in the next episode.